podcast. Today I have Kaitlyn Cook as a guest. She is a business consultant as well as an executive coach. So, Kaitlyn, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Definitely glad to have you on. And just a little quick other aside for the audience here is that you're living in England right now, right?
Yeah, so my accent, people probably question what's going on. So I'm originally from Australia, but I now live in the UK with my English partner and our son.
Okay. So today, as far as life and business, what kind of hats are you wearing? Like, who are you today?
Lots of different women. So who I am today, I am a CEO of my company. I'm a manager. I'm a mother. I'm a now fiance. Um, I'm a daughter trying to navigate being a daughter when her parents are on the other side of the world, which is a challenge. And I'm a sister, and many different things.
Okay. So, having started your own company now, what was your life like leading up to this? But if you could start like way back in grade school or middle school, or I'm not sure in Australia what they call kind of middle and high school.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting. It's really great question. I love having interviews like this because you can really look back at the dots and connect it and go, oh, this led to this. So for me, I guess my business journey kind of started, or the love for it started when I was six. And I just did Monopoly. I played Monopoly for the very first time. And I was like,
Mhm.
this is amazing. Like I loved being able to play around with the money and buy assets and sell and negotiate. I just absolutely loved that at 6 years old. So that was something that was always kind of in me to for numbers. I just loved numbers. And that kind of continued the first chance I got to get my first job. So in Australia, it's 14 years and 9 months. You have to be at that
Mhm.
age to get a job. So as soon as the day I was 14 and 9 months, I went and got a job. And then I quickly got two more jobs in the same year because I just loved the fact you could earn money. So I had
Okay.
three different jobs all through school. And then in school, I loved it. I loved being able to balance and manage and have to be very specific with my time. So at school, I studied like accounting and business, and I thought it was again numbers. I thought numbers were so cool, and I always thought I was going to be an accountant. But everyone said you've got too much of a personality to be an accountant; it'll be too boring. So I never
Uh-huh.
finished that. Um, but I ended up
And
doing, yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but when you say school, you talking about like college already, or is this still like high school?
This was high school. So in
Okay.
Australia, we have primary school and then we have high school. So you're in high school from the age of 13 till 18. So for me, so that was high school, and then you go to university. I never actually went to
Mhm.
university. I just ended up working in a bank straight after school. But when I was 17, actually, when I was about 15, I started doing classes that were above my age. So when I was 15, I was taking classes. It was a 16 or 17-year-old class just because I enjoyed it, just because I enjoyed what it was that I was learning. So I ended up graduating a
Mhm.
year earlier and I didn't realize that was going to happen. So I left and I started doing broking at the age of 16. I started working as a broker, getting really clear on like how to help people with their money. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. People would come in and go, I want to do this with my money. And I'd be like, awesome. And then you could literally create anything. So then what happened for me after, so when I left school and I was doing that, I got approached by one of Australia's leading banks and they wanted me to work with them. And that was like my dream
Mhm.
job from the age when I was six and I did Monopoly. I was like, I want to be in banking. I want to work at a bank. And then I ended up doing it. And I was like, this is my dream job. And I was so, so happy. And I did that for about 7 years. And I was a branch manager for a
Okay.
while, assistant manager, business specialist. So I did all the different roles. Um, and when I was 26, I was a business specialist and I was sitting in my office and I loved what I did. I just didn't like the bureaucracy of corporate world and it was just so monotonous, the same thing over and over again. I remember sitting there in my office and I thought, if I sit here for another year, I am going to be living the same year over again. And what is the point of my life? So I was like, I can't do
Hmm.
that. So I took a career break and I ended up being number two in the country for my role and got it. So I got a bonus, moved to the UK for a couple of years. And that's where I met my now fiance.
Hmm.
And it kind of all went upside down from there in the best possible
Okay.
way.
That's good. So we'll backtrack a little bit more. As far as high school, did you play any sports? Who were you like in high school? Were you outgoing?
Yeah, I loved sports. So I played basketball and tennis were my things. I got an MVP for basketball, being 5'2". Um, I was so scared to play to get a goal in the key because so many people are so much taller than me that I learned to shoot 3-pointers outside the key so I wouldn't have to go too far in. So I ended up being an MVP for
Uh-huh.
basketball, and then did tennis, and I got an MVP for tennis as well, which was really cool. And I just fell into those, and they were really, really enjoyable. I did them up until I think I was about 15, then I stopped.
Okay. Why did you stop?
I think I wanted to focus more on the academic side of things. And that's when I started working a
Mhm.
lot more full time. So I was basically working full time and going to school full time. So something had to kind of stop,
Mhm.
which was the sport.
Okay. And during that time, were you kind of like a leader in terms of your peers in high school? Were What kind of circles were you a part of?
Yeah, I was class captain for a couple of years. Didn't go out of my way to be a class captain, but I was just nominated. So I guess I've always kind of been a bit of a leader in that respect. But I always had a mixture of
Mhm.
friends. I always like having a diverse range of friends. So some of my friends were really, really sporty, and then others were like the real math people, the math club, and I love the math club. And
Mhm.
then other people were, I had one of my best friends had moved over from overseas, and I loved her accent. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, lots of different range of friends in high school.
And during that time, what was your upbringing like as far as and as well as direction in terms of like whether you should go to college at that time after high school or whether you should continue on your kind of work career path?
Good question. So I never felt pressure from my parents to go to university. I always wanted to for myself. Um, I'm one of four and I'm a twin, and I'm the youngest of all four of us. So my
Mhm.
brother and none of my older siblings went to university. So it wasn't necessarily an expectation that we were to do that. In Australia, you can get very good jobs without having to go to university. It's not a necessity. You don't actually necessarily have to do it. So I actually ended up at the end of school. I had a really bad back when I was in my teenage years, really bad back to the point I was told I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 40. So
Mhm.
that really impacted my, like the pressure I put on myself, and it really impacted how I showed up at school. So when I was doing my like half year exams, I was so stressed that I wouldn't be able to walk, and all of those things happened. So um, when I ended up graduating a year early, I took I stopped for a year just to be like, I'll just see how I go without putting any pressure on myself, without having to do any of this stuff. And it just so happened that year
Mhm.
off, I started actually getting into my dream career. So I was like, well, what's the point of going to university? I want to do this anyway. And my parents always knew I was going to do something, um, quote unquote. They wanted me to do it, have a stable job, which I had. So they were happy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So what was it like growing up in Australia? How much different is it from from United Kingdom right now where you're at? And I don't know if you traveled to other countries, but what's life like growing up in Australia?
So nice. I love Australia. Um, it's interesting because now I'm looking at the UK as a 30 something year old woman. But my son's going to school at the end of this year, so it's very interesting to see like the difference. So I was very fortunate in Australia. I went to a school that was just opened. We were the first class to go to the
Mhm.
school, and so it was a very small, tight knit group of people. Um, and like I went through all of my high school, all of my primary school, and all of my high school with them, and it was cool because as you probably know, Australia gets hot. So if it gets too hot,
Mhm.
you don't go to school. And if it got way too
Oh,
hot, but you still had to go to school, we would end up just putting the blinds down in the classrooms and watching TV all day because it was too hot to do anything.
okay.
So that was nice. But it was lovely. It was really nice. Like we always lived near a beach, so it was quite relaxing, quite a very safe place. I feel very grateful to have been brought up in Australia.
What's for those that don't know too much about Australia, what are some unique things about Australia? Because it's an island, but it's not a small island. It's a huge island, right? So yeah, like what are some unique things about Australia in general?
So what I found quite unique when I moved to the UK and looking back is you can fit UK and Victoria, which is one state in in Australia, which is where I'm from. And took us, it can take you 3 days to drive to the top of the country. Whereas here, if you drive 3 days, you're in a different country altogether. You're not in the UK anymore. So it's just all these weird and wacky things. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You can have 4 seasons in a day. So we are a country, we have snow, but we also have, hot tropical weather. We have hailstorms. So we have every different type of weather. But we're incredibly laid back, and we're always just,
Mhm.
I, everyone just smiles there because it's a lovely laid back country where it's good. Like life's nice there.
Yeah. Um, what actually so okay, so you went through um your banking career for 7 years. What was that like? What was your role and what did you learn from those 7 years?
I learned so much more than I realized now looking back. So I started as as a teller, so the person who would stand behind the counter and count the cash. So that was my role. I learned that as the years went on, banks would hold less and less money, and it became a lot more digitized. So we had to learn a lot more
Mhm.
of the tech side, which was really cool. And it was how to innovate with the growth of the world, what the direction of the world's going in. But it also, I used to play this game where somebody would walk up to me and they'd hand me cash, and I'd be like trying to guess if they're rich or poor. And I would always guess, I'd be like, is this person rich or poor? And then someone would come up and they'd have like a briefcase and the nicest clothes, but they'd be in mountains of debt. And I would have thought they were rich. Then there'd be somebody who's just like your next door neighbor. They're just like clothes look are dirty. They're just like, hi, how are you? The nicest thing. And they have so much money. And I'm just like, what? Like what you think on the outside is so different to the reality of it and how people perceive themselves. But I found
Mhm.
that the people I would serve who were truly wealthy were truly happy. Like they weren't happy because they were wealthy, they were just happy people, and then wealth followed them. The people who wanted to look wealthy were really quite self conscious and quite angry people. but
Oh.
but what I found now doing the work that I do, it allowed me to become incredibly systematized in how to do things because it was a very systemized way to do things. This is how you do the sales role, this is how you do the customer service role. So that really did help me in the early part of my life create those systems in my brain of how to actually think in a systemized and also innovative way. Um, so I'm incredibly fortunate for that because I did step outside my comfort zone a lot. I did things I never thought I would do. My managers, I would never go for a job. I would never go for a promotion, but I always got promoted at least once a year. But I never put myself out there. My team leaders would always come to me and go, can you apply for this job? You would be perfect for it. So I'm really grateful to them
Mhm.
for that. Um, and that really did help me kind of step outside. And now in the role that I'm doing, it's like, that's a really good way to go, yeah, actually, I can do different things and step outside, and kind of match those skill sets to new different jobs.
Hmm. So you mentioned kind of being able to see the wealthy people versus the people who pretended to be wealthy. How has that helped you today in terms of potentially your customers or potential customers that are either coming to you or you're seeing like on LinkedIn or other places where they portray themselves like being successful and so on, but they can't afford to pay for certain services and like coaching. How have you kind of perceived that and kind of what is your view of it?
Mm, it's a good question. I think what I've come to realize is I've kind of humanized the process. So, where we look at something externally and go, that's success. That means that's exactly where I need to be. That's what my business journey has to look like. But it's never about the external, it's always about how it feels internally. Because if you're
Mhm.
wealthy but you're miserable, what is the point? So I think that's been a huge component of what I do when people come to me. CEOs will come to me and they'll go, what does success even look like? And I'm like, it's literally up to you. What do you want success to look like? Not what somebody else told you it should look like, not what you thought it should be when you were younger and the quote unquote stable job. What is it that success would feel to you? Um, and get clear on that, because if you're always trying to move towards somebody else's viewpoint of success, you will never achieve it, because there'll always be somebody else who has a different viewpoint of success. So it's a really important metric, and something that I have to continuously ask myself is, what does success look like and feel like to me now? Um, that's been a helpful component. It's a constant reminder though, but I think you'll never see the full picture. You will never see the full picture of somebody else's life. You will never see every single moment of them in their business or them in their life, of the ups and the downs. All you're seeing is a moment in time that they've decided to share with you. And it's how you're perceiving their moment in time, which will then dictate how you believe they're going. Which at the end of the day, we get to share whatever it is we want to share. And I think I never showed up a lot before in marketing, because I was like, I have to have it all together. And then I realized the way I have it all together is I just show up in every way. When I'm angry, when I'm miserable, when I'm vulnerable, when I'm happy, because that's the journey. It's in every one of those moments. And there'll be moments where you'll have more cash in a month. There'll be moments where you won't, but it doesn't take away anything of who you are. It's just how you navigate those ups and those downs, which is always part of the process.
Hmm. What do you think of the term or the phrase "fake it till you make it"?
I think it has its place, dependent who you are and what you need from it. I think there's some people who don't need to fake any more of it. There's some people who don't need to fake it. They just need to be more authentic with who they are. And there are people that I've worked with who do not feel it, who don't, who know what they want to achieve, but they don't know how to do it. So sometimes it is easier to put a persona on of who that person would be to you. And then when you put that persona on and you start making decisions in that faking mentality, it helps you move towards it. That I believe is good for those people who are a little bit in the analysis paralysis, a bit of like real self doubt. They kind of do need to fake it till they make it, because when you objectively take yourself out of the situation, it's easier to take action steps. But there are some people who are beyond faking it, and it is fake. Like, so there is a balance with that, um, because I believe, with modern marketing these days, it's authenticity that's going to speak volumes more so than you showing up and saying you've got it all together, because nobody does, and that's okay. But how can you be relatable and authentic?
Hmm. how much would you say your personality helped you to get to the point where you are today? And personality being like, y- I'm assuming you've taken like personality tests and being extroverted, introverted. I mean, there's so many other components of it.
Mm.
If you could speak to that.
Yeah, so that I actually did a personality test when I was first starting to scale my business. So I just had my son, and I was like, right, I've tried a lot of different things and not all of it's worked. Why not? So I did a personality test, and it was just 16 personalities online. And what I
Mhm.
was trying to gather from that was, where do I best fit in the company, in the business as I scale? So I realized from that, my brain is not fantastic at micromanagement, at the finite detail of things, which I already knew. I'm really good at the big vision, at the front end. People energize me. So I need to be able to provide value to people to continue to grow. If I'm in the back end of my business, it's not exciting for me. So doing that personality test allowed me to understand what my strengths were and also my weaknesses. So when I was procrastinating or doing something that is purely my weakness and going, why am I not growing quicker? I'd go, oh yeah, it's because of this. So I would hire somebody else to do that part of the business. So it would continue to grow more and more. But there's also been a part of my personality that if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it. Like, I get really driven by that. I like that. There's something in that statement when someone goes, you can't possibly do that, that it does ignite a light in me where I just go for it. I don't need it, but that does help me along the way.
So, what is your personality from the 16 personalities site?
So I think it's the ENJ one off memory. So it's the extroverted, like the front end. So the way that I conceptualized it is, I need to be the front person in the business, like speaking to everybody, but not actually managing the day-to-day operations, because my brain does not actually work like that. And I thought when I started, because as an entrepreneur, you've got to wear so many hats in business. You've got to be the owner, you've got to be the bookkeeper, you've got to be all these. And I just thought there was something wrong with me. And it wasn't until I did the personality test and I was like, well, I can't, how do you do 56 different things in a business, well at every single point of it. Um, so yeah, I'm more the outs, like the loud person in the business.
So, like realizing that you can't be good at everything, how did you start building your team?
That took a while, to be brutally honest. My ego got in the way a lot because I'd spent, because from the age of 16, I'd helped people with their financial goals and just achieving it. And then from the age of 22 or 23, I helped people in their business. I was like, oh, I can do it. I'll just do it all. And I didn't think anyone could do it as good as I could. Such a mistake, such a mistake. But then you learn when you've been in business, like I've been in business, this is my 5th year now, and you just kind of learn, like, you can't do it all and you don't want to have to do it all. And you want people to be smarter than you in business to grow more. So it was when there was a pattern. So I love seeing patterns in things. So I'd notice a pattern in my revenue and a pattern in the growth of my business. And I'd be like, why is this occurring? What's happening? And I realized I was the bottleneck. I was literally stopping my own growth because I wasn't entrusting other people on to take on additional work. And it was because I didn't trust myself to lead and manage a team. So what I did to start that step, because it was a big thing, like I was the only person in the business for many years. I'd moved countries like 3 times and had a baby in the time. Like it was like my own baby. So I was like, how do I do this? So actually, for me to build the confidence to grow a team to do this, I actually started with hiring a cleaner in the house. The reason I did that is because I needed to get clear on getting comfortable with paying somebody else to do work I could do but have now chosen not to do, so I could put my energy somewhere
Mhm.
else. And I had to get clear on giving them directions of what to do and giving them feedback. And so I did that, and I started getting a bit more comfortable with my directive communication. And so then I started bringing somebody else in, and the personality test really helped. So I knew my strengths, and so I basically, there's like 6 different elements of a business to make it successful. So I'd write down the areas that I can hone in on, and then I wrote down the areas I needed help with. And so from that, I I started creating a persona of the person I wanted to work with that didn't have my strengths, but their strengths were my weaknesses. So I had more of a whole-rounded team. And then from there, I'd bring them in for a few hours a week and start to get them to do the work, because I found the most difficult thing was the trust. Being able to trust that somebody else can do something at the level that you want it done at, but also being okay with it not always getting done the way that you want it to get done. So that is like a new habit, and habits take 21 days to form a new neural pathway. So for me, I had to go slow and steady, and once I did that, it really helped, and now I've got a bigger team, which has been really helpful.
So how did you develop that trust? How did you trust yourself and then trust the other person? Do you have some kind of a system for it, some sort of feedback that you're looking for? What's it like for you?
So I think with anything that comes with business, you need to be able to quantify what it is you actually want. So trust is just a word until you put something on it. So what does trust actually mean to you? So for me, trust for me with a team that I wanted to bring on meant I could give them jobs that I needed to get done and know they would get done in the time allocated. So that was my framework to build that trust. And if they didn't do anything, if they did nothing but that, that's great, because that's the parameters I set. But what I found occurred is I'd give them those clear parameters and they'd be great at it. So then I'd expand a little bit more on what trust meant in that container and go, okay, so it means you get this work done in this amount of time, but then you also start innovating other ways to do things, which means I needed to be able to be okay with putting resources at these new ideas that might not have worked, but that shows them that I trust them. That shows that I'm backing them. That helps them build trust in their self and their ability within the company. And it allows me to know that my team can innovate as well. It isn't something that like you start and then you get to the end. It's always evolving and expanding, because the business is always evolving and expanding.
So that sounds like a more trust that has to do with getting the work done. What about the component of trust, like trusting somebody's character?
I think trusting somebody's character, you need to be able, it always starts with you. If you don't trust your own character and you can't see the good in you, it's going to be really hard for you to trust somebody else's character and see the good in somebody else. So for me, when I'm always at that stage and I'm looking to bring somebody else on, I get clear on exactly who I want them to be. So what external things do I want them to bring to the team, but who do I want them to be as a person? Like, what's their qualities and their characteristics? And through that method of getting clear on the type of person I want them to be. So for example, I want them to be attention to detail. I want them to be innovative. I'll write that in a job description, but in that job description, I will write, I want you to be able to look at any errors that I've made in this and give me an innovative way to rewrite this. The majority of people who respond to a job post now, it's a rinse and repeat framework of what they've sent to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else, which is not attention to detail, which is not innovative, which does not show characteristics. But you'll have a few people who will have gone to the effort and the energy to read the entirety of it and to write something different, which shows that they're willing to put in the effort and the energy, and they have character and authenticity. So it's being able to just do really simple little things of, like, I'll always write at the end of a proposal, write the words butterfly or write the word roses if you've read this full proposal. And then and right at the top. And so I can literally get rid of 90% of those job people who put in the proposals, because 90% won't have written that small little detail that I've asked them to.
Hmm. What would you say that motivates you?
In what context?
Just to get out there, like even within business, just to do stuff to keep moving forward, keep growing, keep improving?
I think it would have to be my son now. My son would be what motivates me. Um, it was my partner and our travel life before, but since becoming a mother, I want to be the woman that he sees in this world, full of other women who are doing what they love. I want him to see a world of possibilities, and the way that I can do that is by creating a world of opportunities, which means doing things I've never done before, which means being uncomfortable. So I just need to be uncomfortable more and more, and the more I do that, the more comfortable I get with being uncomfortable. Um, and he learns how to. I'm hoping that through that, he'll learn how to be uncomfortable, but be able to regulate his nervous system and like learn that that's the way to live life. Just doing what you want to do, even when it's scary.
Hmm. How do you navigate challenges in your life? Maybe if you can give an example of a challenge you had to overcome and how you overcame it.
I've had many challenges, many challenges. So there's a couple actually I can give you an example for. So when I first started I literally started my business out of necessity. That was the pure reason I did it. So my partner, I'm Australian and he's English. My visa was running out in the UK and he'd already been to Australia. So we'd been 10 months into our relationship and we had to make the decision, do we stay together or and pay $7,500 to stay in each other's country? Do we break up or do we go with option three? So we went with option three. So we sold everything and we traveled Southeast Asia and we just went, let's just see how long we can travel together for and how long we want to stay together for. So we ended up going to Thailand, Bangkok. We landed in there. I opened my laptop. This was January 2019. Opened my laptop and I'm like, what the hell can I do to get paid online? And that was literally how my business started. I was like, well, what can I do? And I literally wrote out all the things that I can do, all the things like I'm educated in and I've actually done before. And then I was like, well, what else would I actually love to move into? So it started growing from there. So the way that we worked through that is because if our money ran out, we both had to leave each other. Like he would have to go back to the UK, I'd have to go to Australia. So I would quantify the money we had by the time we had. So I'd go, right, we've got 6 weeks left together. Let's find another month of time. So I kind of changed it in the way that changing it to that kind of, there was still pressure, but it was a bit more fun, a bit more innovative. So it allowed me to really think of different ways to bring my offering to the world. So that helped. And the days I remember we would have days left together and we had to find money somehow, some way. And I just learned to be really motivated by that. And because I'd worked in banking for so long, I was so desensitized to the stress of money. I was just like,
Hmm.
this is just part of the process. So that was a really cool way to look at a different challenging situation. And when we were a year into our travel, we went to Australia and we were going to go to Costa Rica and Nicaragua to do another year of travel. And I went to the doctors when we were in Australia and we found out we were 4 months pregnant. And this was when my
Mm.
business was taking off. And I was like, huh? Well, that wasn't in part of the plan. Tom didn't have a visa for my country. I didn't have a visa for his country. And I was 4 months pregnant and 2 weeks later I felt Alfie kick. And I was still earning, I was earning the money and then I was like, now I've got to go on maternity leave. How do I do this? And that was a massive challenge. And COVID hit at the same time. Um, and I just kept going. I just kept going and kept going and gave birth to Alfie. And then, like, when he was 7 months old, I scaled to six figures. And he was like the catalyst that kept me like inspired and creative to be able to just keep growing a business and move through the challenges. He really introduced me to the world of being incredibly uncomfortable, but in the best possible way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it gave you the ability to grow. Like, through discomfort, but you're growing, you're gaining new skills, new resilience, and so on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Um, I was just going to say what's helpful with this is when you're in the absolute challenge, the depth of heartache, the depth of such difficult moments, you then see what you've learnt from it. You see the person you've become and you see the growth both internally and externally. And you kind of connect that and go, oh, so if I do this, I get this, which creates this. And that kind of helps you create that momentum to, even if I'm in the depth of it's the hardest it's ever been, or if it's what I didn't think it would be, this is an opportunity to grow and to be even better than I was before. That helps, especially when you're having a really hard time along the journey.
Yeah. So, in your travels, have you traveled to the United States too, or you have not?
Yeah, I did a
You have.
Kentucky tour when I was I 22, 23, did a Kentucky tour all around the US, and that was it's huge, it's a huge country.
Yes. So given that you've traveled to, you mentioned Southeast Asia, kind of the Americas, like Central South America, and as well as United States, and you're from Australia, currently living in England or United Kingdom. From all of your travels, what country or what area did you like the most, and why?
I was always drawn to Indonesia because I learned Indonesian at school when I was 6. So I learned a language and I'd always wanted to speak another language. And so when we were traveling for a year in Southeast Asia, we ended up um, staying in Indonesia for 9 months, and I could actually speak the language. And there's something incredibly special about not having that as your first language, but still being able to understand what somebody else is saying, and knowing that
Mm.
not everyone understands them. And then just the joy you see in somebody's face when they don't think you can understand them, but you speak back and they go, "Oh my God, you can speak." And you're like, "You can speak language." You're like, "Yeah, I can." Um, that was a wonderful place because it introduced me to like yoga and meditation and breath work. And there was just a world of coaches and people who just really cared about the environment and making it a better place. That was really, that was probably where my heart was for a very long time.
So Indonesia, you because of your experience, you feel like that's out of the all the countries you traveled to was one of the best ones.
That was definitely one of the best ones. And the other one would be we went to a little in the Philippines, Siargao, a little island called Siargao. That was where I first learnt to surf. And
Mm.
that was like, there were barely any Wi-Fi. It literally took us 3 days to get off the island because the ferry never came. It was this. There was like one ATM that was kind of worked every other day, maybe. But every night you would have. It was just a town of locals, and every night you would go to a different pub. So then you would rotate all the tourists and all the locals around all the businesses. And it was just the most relaxing place to be in. Everyone was just so happy. They're just like, don't worry. Like nobody worried on the island. Like time slowed down so much there. It was a really lovely place to be.
So was the travel kind of planned, pre-planned for you, or did you plan it yourself?
No, we planned it ourselves. So when my visa ran up here in the UK, we literally were like, well, what are we going to do? And we're like, let's just go to Southeast Asia. So we purchased a one-way ticket to Bangkok in Thailand and just landed there. And we were like, we'll go here and then we'll fly, and then we'll go to Krabi in Thailand and then we'll just see what we want to do. And so we did, and then we'd get to a certain point and we would have made enough money to then go to the next place.
How did you figure out like where you would stay, like whether you'd stay in a hotel or I don't even know, like do they have like B&B or or anything like that out there?
Well, this was very early days, so we actually stayed in hostels. So the reason we stayed in hostels is because we wanted to connect with other people, and also it was the cheapest option. So we literally just stayed at the cheapest places we could. Um, which was really lovely. Um, some of the places were a bit questionable, but yeah, we would just stay at hostels, and a lot of them, like, you could pay for like a week and they'd have a special or something. So we'd do that. But because we were living literally like some days to days and weeks to week, we had to be incredibly intentional with our money. So we would just go for the cheapest options.
Hmm. What are some lessons or things that you learned through your travels?
Hmm. That everyone, like, that what we think separates us connects us. Like,
Hmm.
before I did all of this, I was so scared about the unknown, and it was like, oh my God, what could be this and what could be that, and how would it look? And it's never as bad as you think it is. Like, um, people just genuinely want to help you. People just genuinely want to know your story. They want to connect with you. They want to see how they can help you. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some people who don't have the same intentions. But for the most part, like, even if you speak a different language, we're still all the same. We're still all, like, some of us are business owners, some of us are mothers trying to juggle things, some of us are fathers trying to do the best for their families. It doesn't matter where you come from. It was such a humbling experience as well, being able to know that I grew up in Australia, and then I had the ability to move myself to the UK, and some of these people had never even been out of their town, but they still had such a gratitude and love for their life, and they didn't want for anything else. Um, it was just so humbling for where I was born, in the area I was born in, but also how you can really, so many people would take advantage of where they lived. So if they lived near a beach, they'd
Hmm.
be down at the beach every day, and they would just be like, "Thank you so much. Like, this beach is amazing." They would surf, they would swim. If people live near a waterfall, they'd do that. Like, um, yeah, I miss traveling actually.
Yeah. Have you ever kind of traced your heritage back? Do you know kind of originally where your kind of lineage comes from?
A lot of it's English and Scottish,
Okay.
the vast
So you kind
majority.
of come home now.
Basically, yeah. I asked I asked my dad, and I was like, where are your parents from?" And his father's Scottish, and his great grandmother was originally English. And my mum,
Mhm.
way back on her side, was there as well. Um, yeah, so it is kind of like
Okay.
I'm home. But it's so odd because the
Yeah.
language, even though we both speak English, like Tom and I, the words we use are different. So there's still a slight language barrier, which I never thought there would be, but there is.
Yeah, I worked in corporate environments as well, and there would be people from all over the world, and some people from England as well. And it's like you have American English, and you have England or United Kingdom English, and then there's certain words that in United States are fine, but over there they're like bad things.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely there's that.
Yeah, you're like walking on eggshells a little bit, and you're just like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but then you overthink it to the point you're like, you've just got to say it, and hopefully the intentionality of, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings here, I'm just trying to have a conversation. In most cases, people understand.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as kind of your health routines and how you stay healthy, what are some things that you're doing in your life to keep yourself healthy?
Yeah, so I'm learning a lot more about my nervous system, actually, and regulating my nervous system. So a lot of what I do at the moment, I go to CrossFit. So I do CrossFit a few times, 3 to 4 times a week at the moment in the morning before my partner and I will swap. So he'll either do the first morning session, and I'll do the one after that, and then we'll take our son Alfie. Um, and I do Bikram yoga, so hot yoga. So I'm actually doing it. So I do it Thursday evenings, just to help stretch out my body, which has been so lovely. I've recently got into like taking more vitamins just purely for like more energy and like magnesium and things like that. Um, and one thing I actually did that was so transformational, because it's kind of like a habit, isn't it? When you're trying to kick that health back in and you've found yourself that you're not necessarily as healthy as you usually are, is I have a walking pad. So instead of sitting
Mhm.
down all day, because I'll have like Mondays, I'll have like 7 hours worth of meetings. And so I'll be walking on the walking pad for 7 hours. And so I'll do like over 20,000 steps. And I'll just feel so good and energized. And I can keep going up to 7 hours instead of just sitting in my seat. So that's been very, very helpful. Um, and also the self-care things. It's those self-reflections, allowing yourself time to just check in and go, how are you feeling? What is it that you're doing? Are you giving yourself enough water? Are you eating enough of the right foods? Just checking in on how you're literally feeling on a day-to-day basis.
Have you kind of learned anything in terms of how our world basically operates as far as like the medical world and the food industry, in terms of like it seems like what is easy is actually really bad for us, like fast food as an example, right?
Oh yeah. I think because my job is to help people create more efficient and productive businesses, which there's an element of doing things an easier way. But what I've been very fortunate to have realized is when you do things the easier way and you're actually in it for the long term, you can see the results of that. And often those results are not where you want them to be. And it's often those moments where you put in more of an effort that actually reap more benefits. I think when it comes to, so on your point about it being easy, you've got to ask yourself, why do you want it to be easy? Because what I've found on this entrepreneurial journey of traveling, of being a mother, just living, you never get where you're going by doing something easy, because you need to grow in those moments to learn that a new skill, to strengthen that resilience muscle or that self-belief, so then it's easier for you to keep showing up. If you want to just make it easy so you can sit on the couch and have an easy life, then that's fine. But if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to build a business that's successful, sitting on the couch isn't going to help you. But doing things like showing up more and more, they will become easier the more you do it. So it's thinking the short and the long term. Is this good for me today? And is this good for me tomorrow? If it's only good for me today, I'm not creating a compounding effect for who I'm going to be tomorrow. So it's actually not going to be growing me in the way that I want it to. So chances are I probably shouldn't do it.
How would you like what would you advise younger people, especially those either in high school or just coming out of high school, as far as delaying their gratification and working on something that would be beneficial long term instead of taking that easy route and staying in their comfort zone and not really growing or not contributing to their long term success?
It's a very interesting question. I think I was that person who wanted instant gratification and didn't understand the power of work. And when I'm saying work in this context, I'm meaning the work of moving towards what you want, falling, getting back up, self-believing, and keep going forward. Um, and I've found that when you do the easy route, you don't build the emotional understanding or resilience in order to continue to build a life that you love. So to create a business and a life that you really want, it's never without its challenges. It's never without its mistakes. It's never without, maybe I could have done this bit differently. I didn't really like who I was today. You've definitely got moments where you're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. I'm awesome. My friends love me. I love everybody. But then you'll have days where you'll go, I'm going to make a mistake. I've made heaps of mistakes. People aren't happy with me. How do I resolve this? How do I fix this? How do I do this? And if you have always taken the easy route and you're confronted with that, all you're going to want to do is hide. All you're going to want to do is blow it all up and walk away from it. So you're never going to be able to hold space for those moments. So if somebody who's listening who's younger going, I just want it to be easy, it looks like it's easy. Remember that how you're perceiving somebody's reality is one moment in time from your point of view. You may not have gone through that journey, so you cannot even conceptualize what they have gone through and understood the sacrifices, the hard work they've put in. You're just taking a quick judgment of where they're at now and how you believe it should be for you. But every journey requires you to fail, because when you fail, you learn to stand back up on your own 2 feet. And that is what helps you build the resilience, build the emotional intelligence and awareness to cope in the moments that things aren't going the way you want them to. Because I've worked with many CEOs who had an easy childhood and that now they don't have the emotional awareness or intelligence to deal with when their business is confronted with an external threat or an issue or a team member's not happy. So it's these moments that's what makes us who we are. And you just start moment by moment, break it down day by day.
So, because some people, I have 4 children actually, and my
Oh,
daughter, she's already 20, um,
wow.
but she's kind of in this stage where she's not sure what she wants to do, like with her life and things like that. What would you tell her as an example, as far as how to define her kind of long-term goals?
Go with what makes you feel good. Go with that. Because as you grow older, especially when you're in your 20s, lots of things feel good. Like being able to go out with your friends and then being able to try something new, being able to try a different career and then being able to go, actually, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. All you get, for me, your 20s are about your data collect. You're collecting data. You're collecting what you like to do, what you don't want to do, what you thought you wanted to do, what you ended up going, I don't ever want to do that again. But the only way you know that is if you actually really go at it in lots of different ways and figure out how you feel in those moments. And then your 30s, for me, now being in my, well and truly in my 30s, it's about going, well, I know what I did in my 20s and I liked some of these moments and I didn't like some of these moments. And now how do I hone in on that? How do I expand on what that looks like? What kind of woman do I want to be? Um, so for her specifically, what I would say is get clear on what you want your life to look like and to feel like. You need to know both. Sometimes you can go, I want it to look like this, but it might actually not feel good. So to bring it in, to actually create what it is that you want, you need to get clear on how you want to feel day to day. And it's in those tiny, tiny moments of who you are today and going, does this next action step bring me closer to what I want overall or further away? And if it brings you closer, take that step. If it brings you further away, don't take it. And that is how you move towards what you want. You will not get to what you want by tomorrow, but every moment you have that intentional decision of, I'm going to go this way today towards what I want because it feels the way that I want it to feel. It really does help unlock where you want to go. But also remember, the person you are today is going to be different to the person you're going to be tomorrow. And the person you're going to be at 25, and the person you're going to be at 30, and the person you're going to be at 35. So don't put an age on it. Just ask yourself, what do you want the next chapter to look like? That chapter could be a day, that chapter could be a decade. Doesn't matter. What do you want that to look and feel like? And just move towards that, because you can quicken that cycle. And that's how you achieve your goals a lot quicker, is by getting clear on what you want, going after it. Once you've achieved it, you do the same thing again and again. And before you know it, you've achieved what you want in a very short amount of time.
In your interaction with with like your clients or other people in your circles, do you find that those people know what they want out of their life? They have kind of semi-solid long-term goals, or do you find a lot of people that are kind of not quite sure? They may be successful, but they're not quite sure what they really want out of their life?
It's very interesting that you asked that. So I have my zone of genius is helping people clarify what it is they want. I give them very clear understanding of exactly what they want by quantifying and conceptualizing the entirety of it. So the people who come to me, the CEOs, they tend to know what revenue goals they want because obviously they're the CEO. They need to be driving the revenue. They know what that looks like. But they also know that if they continue to grow the business at the level they're growing it, they'll continue to burn themselves out. So they know what they're doing can't continue to work. But they've never actually thought to connect it from a personal and a business level before. So what I do for them is they'll know roughly what their revenue goal is. They'll know they want something to change in their business. They just won't know how. I give them the space to expand on what that actually looks like, what that next vision looks like. Again, going into, well, what do you want to feel on a day-to-day in your business? How are you currently feeling in your business? What's the activities you're doing? What do you not want to do anymore? And when you continue to ask those questions and get the answers, you form a visual representation of where you're trying to go. When you know the idea of where you're trying to go, you can then create the tangible metrics to get there. If you have no idea what you're trying to move, where you're trying to move, you're already there. So if you're not willing or you don't even try to ponder what it would look like, it's really hard to move towards it because you don't know where you're moving. And one other thing that I've actually found a lot of people tend to do is they think they're going to get it wrong. They're so scared to define what it is that they want because they're like, well, what if I get it wrong? And it's always, well, what does actually, question I get all the time is, well, what does success actually look like? Like, how do I know if I'm doing it right? And my answer is always, success looks like how you want it to look. This is your life. This is your business. That means you create the success metrics. If success to you means working more in the areas you love, do that. If it means stepping back from the business to be with your family, do that. Nobody can tell you, well, everyone will try and tell you what it should look like. But you really need to get clear on what you actually want. And that can be really hard because that means you need to be honest with some things you want to stop doing in your business and some things that are working that you actually might not want to do anymore. And that's okay. It does help. You will always continue to grow your business if you're willing to look at where you're trying to go, where you are now, and take one step towards where you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. So, for people who are kind of blank in terms of what success should look for them, what would you recommend? Would you recommend something like you mentioned for 20-year-olds, collect the data, and then you can use that data to define whatever you'll want in the future? Or what else would you recommend?
So this is where self-inquiry and self-awareness comes into play. So you need to be self-aware enough to know what actually feels good to you, not what looks good. I don't care if it looks good to somebody else, because what looks good to somebody else, inside they may be absolutely dying. They may hate what it is that they're doing, but it looks good, so they're going to keep doing it. And what kind of life is that? To create a business and a life that you truly love and you're passionate about and to innovate means you need to be able to create. To create means you need to be in a place of joy, of excitement, of inspiration. And that comes with what actually makes you feel excited, what makes you feel joyful. And that could just be for me, it's always my morning coffee and cuddles with my son. So it's like, start with that. Because if you're a big component of it is when you're trying to get from here to there, it takes moments and moments and moments that compound to create that outcome. If you're not willing to ask yourself today, what brings me joy, what brings me excitement, and move towards that, you're prolonging that, meaning you won't get there because you're always waiting for something else. So in regards to somebody who's in their 20s and they're going, I don't know what I like. Just ask. If somebody says to you, do you want to do this? And you immediately go, no, then don't do it. But if something inside of you goes, yeah, I do, then do that. And it's that, I think when you're in your 20s as well, there's this keeping up with the Joneses and I've got to do what everybody else is doing and stuff. Just drop that, because as you get older, you don't care about it. And it's so much easier when you just truly do what you want to do that excites you, because you'll excite other people because you're feeling good and excited. Um, so just ask yourself, what actually brings me joy right now? As small as it can be or as big as it is. And move towards that every day.
Hmm. What's your view on spirituality?
Hmm. I kind of unlocked spirituality when I was in Indonesia, actually. So what I found, I had like this massive, I don't know, like awakening, I guess. Um, to me, and to me, growing my business, your business will only grow as much as you do. So for me, I'm always trying to find more ways to grow and be better and all this. And it was when I was in Indonesia, I was really confronted with a lot of people who were in the spirituality space. And I never thought that was me. I came from a corporate background and I was quite ashamed of that side of me. Um, but I think as it's grown, that side, it's kind of quite nice to be able to, if nothing else, you just kind of trust at a deeper level. You just trust that that something's always working out for you, no matter what. And for me, as somebody who's quite strategic and thinks a lot with her brain, for me to have to trust at another level without being able to intellectualize it was a massive struggle for me. That actually, when I just at one point just let it go and went, I, I trust in something bigger and greater. I just don't know what that is, and I don't have the answer, and that's okay. It's softened and it allowed me to kind of grow a bit more, which has been nice.
Hmm. I kind of missed it. What were you saying that you grew up as?
Oh, my parents, from a religious standpoint, my dad was a Mormon and my mum was an
Mhm.
atheist. So, but I did not like religion. I was very against it. We went to religious schools and yeah, I didn't like it at all. But there's an element of spirituality where it's not necessarily somebody telling you exactly who you should worship and what it should look like. There's a more of a softness to it that I've kind of opened myself up to.
Hmm. Yeah, I look at kind of life as an integrated whole. Like there's the unseen part of us, and then there's the seen
Mm.
part. But when it's all working together well, then we're doing what we need to do, and life kind of chugs on. Doesn't mean you don't have challenges, but like it just seems more fulfilling, more full, versus kind of compartmentalizing it kind of into separate components.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
In terms of kind of continuous development, continuous learning, what do you do for yourself? Like, how do you continuously recreate yourself?
I first ask myself, who do I want to become? So again, I can conceptualize and actually measure who that type of person is. So I'll always ask myself, who do I want to become, and how would she show up today? How would she make a decision in this moment? How would she be? And that's really helped me when I've had to grow quicker than I was wanting to, or I guess ready to. Um, I read a lot of like self development books as well, though, and just a lot of, I watch other people who I admire who are honest about their journey, who've had to stand clear and with their values. So that's a big component of who do you want to be today, and I think that's helped me because I'm not always the best person. I don't always have a really great day. Some days I show up and it is not who I want to be that day. As a mother, as a fiance, like I messed it all up. But it's like, cool, tomorrow's another day. If I could do the day again, how would I do it? And then it's waking up and going, right, now I get another chance. Who do I want to be today? And that kind of goes into the element of what you were speaking earlier about. It was like that fake it till you make it part. It's kind of like, who is that person today, and getting comfortable with that. Um, And yeah, and having a big support network has been very, very needed on this journey.
Hmm. And in terms of that support network or even like a social circle, what is your social circle or social life like? Do you spend a lot of time like socializing, networking, or other kind of activities? Or do you find it that now with your business, you're kind of more drawn and to just kind of key people that you're around with?
It's actually changed a lot. When I was younger, I was the life of the party. I was always like front and middle. I was always like really loud. And now at this phase of my life, I'm a lot more introverted when it's nobody else around but me. I'm just very self-reflective. I like, to be in a lot more like just doing really quiet activities. And I think because what I do at the level that I do, I need to bring a huge amount of presence and strategic understanding to my clients to give them the level of support that they need. To balance that requires me to be very specific with the type of people I have around me. So and the moments where I have just hours where I can just contemplate things and build things and do all that kind of inner work. So I don't have a big network like I used to, but my network is very supportive at where I am in my life at the moment. Um, yeah, I feel very fortunate actually.
Yeah. What is your approach to business coaching?
As in my methodologies or
Yeah, kind of just kind of from general or as specific as you want to get into it. Like, what do you do? How do you coach?
so my approach to coaching has evolved and grown as I have. So I've found I always go through it first to then tell and show my clients how to go through it and what's going to come up. So I actually merge. So my coaching style is very much merge the strategy with the innovation, the fun with the passion, the profit with the impact. So I believe you can have both. You can have a truly impactful and highly profitable business, but you need to be able to integrate and combine both of them. So I come at it from a 360 standpoint. But due to my experience and also my zone of genius and just generally really liking to understand people and their patterns and what the world needs and all of those, I come at my from a coaching standpoint from a very 360 holistic understanding of where do you want your revenue to go? What do you want your team to look like? What's your marketing efforts need to be? How do you need to show up in the world for you to reach your goals? How do we quantify that? But also, what's the mental hurdles you might experience along the way? And I realized the amount of knowledge and understanding that I teach and show my clients, it's quite like, it's not just let's do this one thing and then you'll be fine. I go in lots of different places. And I'm very fortunate that I have my ideal clients who they can think at the level I can, so our synergy is perfect. Like they know they're trying to get to where they're trying to get to. They're clear on it. We've worked through it. So my coaching style is we might go into a session and someone's like, "Right, I want to work on the marketing," and you're like, "Cool," and we start the marketing conversations, and I'll uncover something and go, "It's actually not about the marketing. It's actually about your self inner belief about this and this and this. Here's the strategy, both structurally, how to achieve these goals, but also internally, what it is you need to do to shift, to accept in order to move to where you want to." So there's a real depth to the work that I do that I've cultivated over the years, because I want to support my clients at such a deep level that I need to give them that deep level of support with what it is that I do.
Hmm. How do you go like cross the barrier of people who need the coaching, but for one reason or another, they don't go after the coaching, or they're skeptical about it because there's so many coaches out there, and they're not sure like, will this coach actually help me? Like, how do you break that barrier?
So I don't have to as much as I used to because I've been in the industry for so long and my word of mouth is really quite powerful. But I completely resonate and understand because I tend to be the second person in a business. And what I mean by that is somebody will have hired a business coach or a business consultant and been burnt before. They will have
Mhm.
spent a substantial amount of money and gone, I want you, and they would have, this person would have said, I'm going to fix all these things, and they didn't. And so then they come to me and they go, how do you think you can do all this? Because we've done this before. So I actually go into those conversations differently, going, I understand. And because I've literally been in those conversations since I was in my early 20s, I will literally say, I understand this is what they did, this is what they would have said to you, and this is what they would have produced. And they go, oh my God, how'd you know that? And you're like, because it's a story I've been told my entire life. Because I end up being the second person, but I end up staying in the company because they're like, I want to keep you because you help us so much. But I think there's an authenticity about me. Like you can really understand, I truly care about my customers. I really care about people. And I give them full access to me. Like I give them my WhatsApp number, my email number, like they know everything about me. So there's this level of trust when somebody's been burnt before from a coach, there's a level of trust they need you to instill in them. So a lot of the times they'll need you to contact them multiple times to just go, hi, just checking in, just seeing how you doing, how you going, and not to sell to them, just to go, how you doing, like just to hear them and go, I get you had an awful experience, but I'm here for you. Like, how are you going? Um, and the other part to that is if you go into the transaction, so if you're wanting a coach and you go in it going, this isn't going to work, this won't happen, that's the wrong energy to go into it with. Because if you're already thinking it's not going to work, you're already 1 foot out. You need to be completely in to have the transformational experience that coaches provide. And sometimes part of the journey is working with somebody. Like I worked with a coach who burnt me as well, and I was like, oh my God, that was horrible. But it allowed me to be a better coach and to know what the red flags are so that I can help other people do that. So if you've been burnt before, look back at what you learned from that experience, because there'll be nuggets of wisdom that you can grab from it and go, actually now I'm so much better at hiring people, I'm so much better at asking the questions. What I will always find as well is if somebody's not willing to answer multiple questions from you, if you want them to be your coach, but they're not willing to do extra work for you to be there for you, then chances are they're not going to be the coach that you need if you want that level of support. So if you want somebody to support you at a high level, ask them multiple questions. And if they don't answer them, then you'll know that they're not in it for that level of support that you need. And there's your answer.
Mhm. I was just going to ask you about the red flags, and you gave one right there. What are
Yeah.
some other red flags that you would share?
I think it's the follow up. So again, everybody is different. So for me, I've realized over the years that I love supporting my clients at as I said, at a deep level, and that means checking in with them once or twice a week, just to be like, how are you going? What's going up? What's the updates? But I want that from my coach. So if I'm wanting to sign on a new coach, if I'm wanting to pay somebody, then I will ask them to follow up with me, and I'll say, can you check in with me in the next couple of days and see if they do? And if they don't,
Mhm.
then I don't work with them. And if they do, I'll go, yep, cool, can you just check in with me in another couple of days? And just see if they're willing to put in the effort, then that's something that I'm willing to consider.
So you can test them basically ahead of time before hiring them,
Definitely.
right?
100% you should. You should 100% test them. I used to think, no, if I'm paying them, they'll do a good job. They won't. There's so many different people. There's so many different people on this earth that you can choose honestly anybody you want. So if you want to get a coach, first get clear on who you need that coach to be. What are your strengths? So you want them to have the strengths that are your weaknesses so you can mirror the two. But then also, what level of support do you need and want? What level of advice do you need and want? And then do some of your own research. Do they have that capacity? And are they willing to follow up with you if you're needing and wanting that? And what do their other clients say about them? What's important to you? And can they deliver that for you?
Hmm. What's your ideal client?
At the moment, it changes all the time, to be honest, because I evolve and grow all the time and my skill set does. So at the moment, my ideal client are ones who are scaling from 1 to 5 million, who have normally a lot of contractors. So they've got about 20 or so contractors under them, and they may have 1 or 2 employees. They're the ones who they're kind of burnt out because they've been running a successful business at the level they have for around about 5 years. And they're wanting to find somebody who can think as quick as them, but who can also create long-term success, because my clients are also intellectual in the sense of, I know what to do now, so I'm going to do it, but they don't set themselves up for long-term growth. So that's what I help them do, innovate for the short and long-term growth. And my clients are those who want support at the C-suite level. So somebody can come in and help them as an executive, as their CMO, COO, CFO, as I build and scale their leadership team to help them either sell, shift, or scale their business.
Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on the services that you offer?
So the services that I offer, it's consulting. So consulting in the sense of, where do you want to go? Where are you now? And here's the strategy to get there, as well as the strategy I can help you with the implementation of it. So a lot of what I'm doing now is shifted into more of the 6 to 12 month offerings. Because the clients that I work with want substantial growth, I've noticed the way that I can do that is by staying with them for a very long period of time. So at the same time I do the consulting, I also do the executive coaching. So I help coach their team of leaders to work at the level they need to work, to create efficiency, productivity, and to also be able to focus on where the CEO wants the company to go. So the CEO, I'll work with them specifically to go, where are you trying to go? What is it you actually want? And then we communicate that across the team. So I'm literally their right-hand person. So they bring me in to go, I need somebody else at this level to help me, who's not full-time in the business, but who can objectively look at the business. So I go in and I scale their business up to 5 million, and then I give them the strategy to get to 10, and then I either keep working with them or I move to the next type of businesses.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of like just additional information about your business, what else would you want to share?
So my business is called the KCC. So it was originally just myself. So because I've had business understanding and financial understanding, I built it to the level it was, but then realized I was my own bottleneck. So what I've actually developed is a methodology of the 6 pillars of business, of how to really grow and scale a business impactfully, but also profitably. So what I came to find over the last 10 plus years of doing this is there was 2 types of people. There'd be people who would care about their customers at a very deep level and just want to create impact and feel bad about making a profit, so they never would. Or people who just genuinely cared about money and nothing else. And I didn't want that to be the truth. I didn't want that to be the future of companies. So I've created a company that merges the two. So I help people who are focused on the money create a heart in their business. So create the passion, the purpose, the vision to actually connect with people. And then at the same time, people who would just care about the impact, they care about people. I help them with the overall revenue structures, how to actually create a revenue-driven business that's profitable and helps a lot of people. Because I do believe the world is a better place when we merge money with heart.
Yeah. What are those 6 pillars, or what are the 6 parts that you kind of defined for the business?
So the 6 parts. So the first pillar is very much like review. Where are you? That to people can be really hard. Is the literal honesty of, where are you? I know where you want to be, but where are you actually today? So it's a huge deep dive into where you are today. What does that actually look like? Then the second pillar is, what's your marketing and your team look like? So we can get clear on, well, who are you as the leader? What does your role want? What do you want this role for you to grow into? Who do you want around you to support you? What does that look like? And what's the marketing efforts to get us there? Then the third one, we do revenue and sales mastery. So how can you really expand and amplify your revenue at the same time as creating a sales strategy that's a rinse and repeat, automated, that works for you in your business, that you can scale up as well. And then we talk about the growth infrastructure, because if you don't have the internal growth, it's not going to be a strong enough platform for you to continue to scale from. You'll actually get to a point where it will collapse. So we really need to build the infrastructure, which looks like, what's the tech that you need, what's the software, what's the integrations, how does it all interconnect, what's the cogs of it all. And then the next one that we talk about is the executive coaching. So how do you want to show up as a leader? How do you want to be successful? How does your team want to show up? What does that actually look like for everybody involved? And then it's a review and measure. What has this worked? Has this not? What's going well? What's not? Are you liking where everything's going? And normally at that end, they will have grown substantially in their revenue. Their team culture will have advanced. So then we just follow the process again to do the next growth level. And it's because there's so much interconnectedness with business. If you change your revenue structure, you need to create the scalable metrics, and it's all interconnected. So I found just creating these 6 pillars, and underneath it there's multiple facets, but just simplifying it by going, these are the 6 pillars, let's just work our way through these. Some people it takes a year, some people it takes 6 months, some people it takes 3 months. Like, it all just depends. Because I need to have innovation within that as well. So a lot of what I do is bespoke to the actual client. So yes, it's team and marketing I'll talk about, but it'll be a specific solution for them in that pillar that they need to address and execute.
Mm-hmm. What kind of clients do you have, as far as what industry are they in? Like, what's the variety of industries that your clients come from?
Vast. So what I've always done is I've always worked with clients in many different industries, and I love that. I don't niche in the respect of an industry. I don't work with just one industry-based company. I work with a specific client who's wanting to solve a specific problem. But I find I do my job better because I can innovate when I know a lot of different industries, and I don't just create a rinse and repeat system for the same people and just go over and over again. So I've worked with people in the medical field. I've worked with people who've created products, who have solved issues in the science and medical factors. I've worked with people in the SaaS. I've worked with people in the wellness space, the beauty space, the software and the tech space. Honestly, in almost every type of industry I've worked in, which is quite cool because I've worked with somebody in data analytics at the moment, and he's just like, but you don't understand this industry. I don't need to understand the industry. I understand business, and I can understand what your goals are, and I can tell you how to achieve that. And so it's kind of can be a bit like, oh, but how can you really help me if you don't get the industry? But I have a way of being able to explain your industry in a very simplistic way because I don't understand the inner workings of your industry. When we're talking about sales, that's a very key component of it, because you need to be able to sell to not just people who understand your industry.
And then, as far as your clients coming from an area or worldwide, I'm assuming it would be worldwide, right?
Yeah, worldwide. So I've worked with people from Dubai, Egypt, Paris, Italy, Australia, UK, US, Indonesia, Iraq, so many different places, which I love. I think it's really cool. It's so cool just to be able to get to know people from different parts of the world who have different business goals.
What would be like one story that you could share in working with one of these customers or clients? Something unique, something that it's not so common.
Um, so when I was living in Bali, in Indonesia, I met 2 Australian women so they're up the north of Australia, and I'm from the south. And they connected with me through a global platform, and they wanted to start a business up in Australia. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And they just out of the blue were like, we're actually coming to Bali. Can we come and sit with you and just workshop our business? I'm like, yes, you can. And they were actually launching, so their company's called V Eat. So they launched the first vegan delivery food platform in Australia. So it's similar to Deliveroo, but for vegan and vegetarian. So they came and we spent a whole day in Indonesia, and we like scooted there. We're just like, hello. And it was really cool because we're all from Australia, but we met in Indonesia building a business in Australia. Um, and that was one of the coolest things ever. And then I ended up continuing my journey with them when I lived in the UK as well. So it was like we saw each other from all parts of the world. And yeah, they successfully launched. So that was cool.
Nice, nice. Where can people find you or your business?
So I'm all over LinkedIn. So LinkedIn myself, so Kaitlyn Cook. Otherwise the KCC. I've just started a business platform on there. I've actually been in business for 5 years and haven't really done anything on social media or even had a website. Um, so I've just started doing all of this. So my website is thekcc.co, and you can also find me on Upwork platform. So it's the world's largest e-marketplace for freelancers. So I'm the top 1% expert on there, and my profile is Kaitlyn Cook, and also my agency is the KCC that you can find on there as well.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, either about your business or about your life? Anything else you'd like to share?
I think I'd just like to share to anybody listening that if you're wanting to grow a business, or if you are growing a business and you're wondering, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? That you are doing it right. Nothing, it's never perfect in your business journey. It is messy and it's unorganized at times. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to embarrass yourself. But it's so incredibly fulfilling when you continuously back yourself in those moments, because whatever it is that you want to bring to the world to grow in your business, there is somebody out there who's waiting for you to show up and to give that to them. So just know that there's a world of support around you to do it. And if it is something you really want to do, just go out and do it. And if you're having a hard day and you're like, I can't do it today, then just don't. Just take a seat, just rest for the day and get up the next day and do it. It's okay. It's built moment by moment. Um, but yeah, for me, the growing a business has been the most incredible journey. And I never thought this was what I was going to do. And I'm so glad that I've done it. And I had many moments that I could have quit, or I had many moments I wanted to quit but couldn't. So I stuck it out, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's created such a level of freedom and connection. Like I get to connect with people like yourself and just talk on a Thursday afternoon about life and business. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So one more question for you. What does the world need more of today?
Self-aware people. People who
Yeah,
know who
that's
they
great.
are. Yeah. People who know who they are, um, and that they're okay, that they're not perfect. They accept who they are, and they don't keep looking externally for the validation of what they think it should be and should look like. They just accept who they are and like it
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, Caitlin, thanks so much for joining me here, for sharing your story, sharing a little bit about your business. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity and for the platform you have, just to help people understand more about all the different stories and different ways to build businesses and live lives. It's really cool.